Hello, and welcome to The Doctor's Watcher. This is Ryan.
And this is Kyle. You are listening to the Delinquents podcast about every episode of Doctor Who.
Ooh, Delinquents, I like it.
We both probably have some delinquent tendencies. I feel like characters in the show often have delinquent tendencies, so...
Indeed. But I'm not delinquent on my bills, in case any of the bill collectors are listening.
Indeed.
So, how's it going, Kyle?
Not too bad. I had a visit with my doctor yesterday, and I am no longer wearing a compression binder or any Steri-strips or anything on my surgery site, so it's healing well. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about things. One second, Matilda's meowing out the door.
Yeah, I heard. She's welcome to contribute.
Uh-huh. Meow, where'd you go, kitty? I guess she left.
Oh.
But yeah, so I'm doing all right. I am in the middle of 2 weeks off from work, which is super nice. I have to keep kind of reminding myself that I still have another week off because I keep thinking like, oh shit, it's the weekend. I'm going to go back to work soon, but I'm not actually going back to work soon. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm doing pretty good too. Trying to think what I covered last episode. The move was an utter shit show. They sent a truck that was too small and not enough guys. Won't go into the whole thing. Finally, it got handled. We're in Georgia now, and most of my crap is in storage. We're staying in an Airbnb, which is, small but nice.
Uh-huh.
And doing a bunch of house hunting. One of the houses, or a couple of the houses we looked at today, hilariously, were in the town of Cumming, so that's fun. But yeah, things are moving along. Hopefully we will find a house to purchase. We may have found that in our adventures today.
Nice. Yeah, I remember house hunting, I guess, 5 years ago, basically, at this point, and definitely can be a huge pain in the ass.
It really is. Yeah, and like once you've seen 10 or 15 houses, they all kind of start seeming samey.
Yeah.
We've seen at least 20, possibly 30 this round.
Jeez.
But we're narrowing them down. We're pretty exacting in our specifications. But whatever. At least we've got some time now to find the perfect place, or pretty close at least.
Yeah, and it's a big purchase that you're going to spend, basically a lot of time in and dealing with. So
right, exactly.
It's worth it to spend the time and the effort to make sure it's something that you really want to do and make sure it's the right one.
Right, if you can. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's been an adventure, but a good one, I guess, overall.
Nice. Well, speaking of adventures that have been pretty good overall, shall we talk about episode 3 of The Power of the Daleks?
Let's do. Yeah, so how did you watch this one?
I am still watching the official BBC animation on BritBox. I have been enjoying that. It is, as I think I mentioned previously, not necessarily like the highest quality of animation. It was a very rushed job, but it's still pretty fun anyway.
Cool.
course, I'm saying this as a big fan of Star Trek the Animated Series, which is also not high quality animation, but a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, sometimes the low qual kind of like gives it a little extra charm. Like sometimes that doesn't work, but sometimes it does.
I did read on, the Doctor Who wiki about a few Easter eggs that are in the animation that I thought were kind of fun that I wanted to mention. I don't specifically know like which episode most of these are from, because I didn't actually like specifically observe them myself. I just read about them in the wiki. But apparently at one point we see a computer with a Magpie Electricals logo. Apparently Magpie Electricals is a company that's referenced in Modern Who in the David Tennant era.
Cool.
There's another point in this serial that we see a communications device with a Wayland Yutani logo.
Oh, nice.
Which, of course, is a reference to the Alien franchise.
Yep. And Predator, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also one point that we see a Bad Wolf meme, which, of course, is a reference to the Christopher Eccleston era of modern Doctor Who.
Yep.
And the final Easter egg that I wrote down was, and this one I actually did see myself. It's not in episode 3, but it's in one of the other episodes. There's a notice board, and there's, a message put up on the notice board that talks about a reduction in milk rations, and it mentions the possibility of the milk rations being substituted with dog milk. And apparently that's a reference to Red Dwarf.
It sounded familiar. It was like dog milk. I know I've heard that.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
Excellent. Wonder what dog milk tastes like. I don't want to taste it, but I wonder.
I thought, I just wanted to mention those Easter eggs because I guess like this is the kind of thing that you can do when you are animating a long lost missing serial. You can throw in shit like this.
Yeah, it'd probably be kind of hard to resist doing a little bit of Easter egg insertions.
Yeah, for sure. So here in the 11th episode of season 4, Power of the Daleks, episode 3, do you recall our cliff dangler from episode 2?
I do. We were dangling on the cliff of having a newly awakened, very suspiciously helpful Dalek. Seems like he was super willing to push garbage cans around and chairs and whatnot, and kept repeating that he would be super helpful. What specifically was it that he was repeating?
He was repeating, "I am your servant."
Yeah. So that's not sus at all.
Yeah, we can totally trust Daleks.
Right.
Yeah, you think so too, Matilda? So
if she thinks so, then I think so.
Our scientist Lesterson and the governor of the colony, Hensel, are both pretty excited to learn that the Dalek can speak. This is new to them. Lesterson's been messing around with the Dalek, but it has never spoken before. So it's showing like some rudimentary intelligence now. They're like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did we know if Hensel was in on, because before, like, Lesterson screwing around with the Dalek was kind of like on the DL.
Right. Yeah.
Does Hensel hit on that? Do we know?
I don't think we really know for sure at this point.
Okay.
He seems pretty on board with what's happening at the moment, but I think either he didn't know or we weren't sure if he knew.
Okay, fair enough.
Before this point. So yeah, of course, the Dalek is showing some intelligence, but Lesterson is pretty confident that basically it's a low enough level of intelligence that they should still be able to control it. And Hensel is basically just like, all right, cool, and gives him permission to continue with the experiments. The Doctor is like, that's bullshit.
Oh, I realize I can't give you any proof, but you've no idea of the danger.
Yeah. That's understating it.
Uh-huh. He basically heads off to the communications room. He wants to talk to Earth as soon as radio communications have been restored, because he figures if they're not going to listen to him when he tells them to destroy the Daleks, maybe he can get Earth to tell them, and maybe they'll listen to Earth. As he's leaving the room, he tells the Dalek basically that, like, if it truly is his servant, to immobilize itself. And it kind of like, it objects a little bit, but then it basically just like lowers its eye stalk and its plunger arm.
Interesting.
And,
pretty good, line of thinking. Like, oh, if you really are serving me, like, prove it by crippling yourself, kind of.
Right, yeah. And yeah, the Dalek is just like, sure, I will do that. Or it's like, sure, I will do that.
Nice.
And yeah, so it lowers its eye stalk and its plunger arm, and as soon as Ben and Polly and the Doctor are out of the room, it raises them again.
Of course.
And Lesterson's like, dude, you were given an order. Why'd you stop obeying? And the Dalek says,
His order was wrong. I cannot serve human beings if I am immobilized. You gave me power. Your orders are right. I serve you.
Oh boy. Lesterson's gonna have that go right to his head, I'm sure.
Yeah. Hensel is like, I don't know, dude. It seems like it's actually reasoning now and like thinking about things. I don't know how limited its intelligence is. Like, maybe this isn't a good idea. But Lesterson's basically just like, it's fine, no worries.
Well, of course he is. It's obeying him.
Uh-huh. Out in the hallway, Ben and Polly are still debating with each other about whether Quinn is innocent or not. Of course, Quinn is the deputy governor, and he was the one whose button the Doctor had, like, after he got attacked in the swamp. So he was also holding wire cutters in the radio communications room. So, yeah, people are thinking that Quinn was the one who attacked the Examiner and everything. The Doctor is not really participating in this discussion about Quinn. He's just kind of like mumbling to himself and seems like maybe he's formulating some sort of plan about the Daleks. Ben basically tells Polly that, let's talk about Quinn later. The Daleks are the most important thing here. And the Doctor's like,
Congratulations, Ben. What did I do? You just used your brains, that's what you did. The Daleks are the most important thing.
What a smart ass. I love it.
Yeah, this second doctor is really kind of ended up being a smartass, and yeah, that's been a lot of fun so far.
Awesome.
Governor Hensel and his head of security, Bragan, are now questioning Quinn some more. The two of them basically think that this circumstantial evidence of the examiner/doctor having Quinn's button is enough to prove that Quinn attacked the examiner, and probably also that he sabotaged the radio communications devices. And Quinn is like, dude, why the fuck would I do that? I was actually the one who summoned the examiner because these rebels are starting to get out of hand.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's new information. Like, we have been wondering who summoned the examiner in the first place. Apparently it was Quinn.
Yeah. Huh.
Bragan suggests the idea that maybe Quinn is doing all of this specifically to undermine Governor Hensel's position and basically get him fired as governor so Quinn can take his place. And as soon as Bragan mentions this idea, the governor really seems to go for it. So he has the guards take Quinn away and lock him up, and he appoints Bragan to serve as deputy governor. We cut back to the guest quarters, where the doctor is using a chair to basically smash up a piece of electronics. And then he starts disassembling a bed and like pulling the mattress out. And I think maybe getting some springs out of the mattress. It's not quite clear.
He's a right little delinquent, isn't he?
Polly suggests that maybe if the doctor would tell her and Ben what he's doing, they might possibly be able to help him.
Smart.
Uh-huh. And yeah, the doctor basically just ignores her. Ben suggests, like, you know, we're a few episodes into this serial, into this adventure. I don't know what's happening, so maybe let's just GTFO, head back to the TARDIS. And he also gets ignored. The doctor mentions that they can't underestimate anyone here. He points out that, like, just based on the fact that Lesterson was able to figure out how to open the space capsule and he figured out how to activate a Dalek in the first place, like, he must be a pretty good scientist. So
makes sense.
Yeah. Of course, the doctor thinks that the Daleks are using Lesterson, not the other way around.
Clearly.
Uh-huh. He apparently has been, you know, doing these delinquent behaviors of smashing electronics and opening up the mattress and whatever in order to assemble a little device that he holds up and shows to Ben and Polly. And Ben asks what it is.
What is it? It could be the answer to all our problems.
Okay.
Of course, we don't get...
That's not an answer.
We don't get, like, any more specific or detailed of an answer than that. The three of them all head out into the corridor. They go through the corridor door, and they see Quinn being escorted by the guards. I guess, you know, on his way to a jail cell or whatever. And he tells them to find out where the rebels are holding their meetings. Polly wants to help him, but the doctor insists that, like, we need to focus on the Daleks as our top priority. Maybe we'll be able to help Quinn later.
This is a case where a little injustice is better than wholesale slaughter. What we want is in Lesterson's laboratory. Come along.
Pretty good perspective, I guess.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird to see the doctor, like, just being like, yeah, a little injustice, that's fine. But, you know, when you frame it as a little bit of injustice versus wholesale slaughter, if we have to pick one of those two, I'm going to pick a little bit of injustice.
Right. Kind of hard to argue that one.
Uh-huh. Over in the lab, Lesterson is giving us kind of a little bit of a Doctor Who is an educational show moment by basically quizzing the Dalek about chemistry and physics. And of course, the Dalek knows all the correct answers.
Of course.
The Doctor shows up in the lab, and Lesterson's pretty annoyed by this at first. He is assuming that the Doctor is there to put a stop to things. But the Doctor actually says that he's not. He says that he thinks they got off on the wrong foot, and basically he just wants to be friends now, and he's just interested in seeing how Lesterson's research is progressing.
Sneaky.
Uh-huh. Lesterson's assistant, Janley, gets a phone call, which causes her to leave the lab, although I'm pretty sure that we see her steal something from the lab table on her way out, while Lesterson's basically distracted telling the Doctor about the Dalek. But the camera operator of the animation stays in the laboratory, and Lesterson continues to quiz the Dalek about physics and chemistry. And as he does so, the Doctor just kind of like casually walks over to the control panel on the wall and starts attaching this device that he built from smashed up electronics and mattresses. And as he attaches this device to the wall, the Dalek suddenly starts like spinning in circles and yelping in pain. And we see electricity kind of arcing across the Dalek. But Lesterson is pretty quickly able to like smash the Doctor's device, and he kicks the Doctor out of the lab. And the Dalek basically reports to Lesterson that it has sustained no damage, and as its eye stalk watches the Doctor leave the room, the camera of the animation focuses in on a close-up of the empty socket where its gun arm attaches, and we basically hear this clicking noise as if it's trying to activate its film negativizer, but of course its gun arm's not there.
Interesting. So at least we know the Doctor can build Dalek torture devices out of smashed up garbage, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he can build more.
Hello, Doctor's Watcher listeners. We are your servants. We do not need guns, but we do need your 5-star ratings and reviews. No more than 5 stars to be seen together at any one time. We are ready to teach these human beings the law of the Doctor's Watcher. Back to the show.
We cut back to the governor's office, where Janley is meeting with Bragan, and we get a quick little backstory exposition dump. Apparently, Janley has been helping the rebel faction, but only at the insistence of Bragan, whose plan is to basically stir the rebels up enough to get Governor Hensel fired, and then Governor Bragan, or rather head of security, Deputy Governor Bragan, will step in as the new governor, and once he's governor, he will crush the rebels and take over the colony. So he's kind of using Janley as like a double agent among the rebels, basically.
Pretty clever, I suppose. Dick move, but clever.
She shows him what she stole from the laboratory, which was actually the Daleks' gun arm. And apparently they are planning to give it to the rebels because one of the rebels thinks that they can build a switch to turn it on or off.
Oh.
Janley also reveals to Bragan that Lesterson's other assistant, Resno, who got film negativized a couple episodes ago, we thought at the time, or we were told that he was stunned, but he was actually killed.
Oh. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Apparently, Janley dumped his body in the mercury swamps and has just been lying to Lesterson about it this whole time.
Nice. Go Janley.
She's like, yeah, this is going to give us, like, great leverage over Lesterson, because, like, basically it was his fault that Resno died. Bragan is not ready to make his move to, like, fully take over the colony just yet, though. He wants to deal with the Examiner first. We cut to a bit later on. Ben and Polly are looking for the doctor, who does not seem to be around anywhere. Ben leaves to go search another part of the base, and once Polly is alone, Janley comes in and tells her that the Examiner is actually just in the communications room waiting to get a message through to Earth, and she gives Polly, like, directions to the communications room, basically. When Polly arrives there, though, the room is all dark, and she's basically immediately attacked by the rebel Valmar, who holds a handkerchief over her nose and mouth. You know, he, like, broke a file into the handkerchief and then holds it over her face. This knocks her unconscious. And then we learn that he did this at the instruction of Janley, of course, who basically tells him to just lock Polly up and keep her out of the way. And then Janley gives Valmar the Daleks' gun arm.
Can you fix it?
It's easy. This could win us the revolution.
Well, that's disturbing.
Uh-huh.
Like, why would they just automatically want to, take Polly out of the picture? Like,
Yeah.
why would they assume that she's standing against them or whatever?
I got the impression that it was basically she's starting to ask too many questions.
Oh, I guess that kind of makes sense, yeah.
So, yeah, they just need her, like, out of the way.
She is quite inquisitive.
Uh-huh. What I wasn't quite sure on, though, is, like, if Bragan and Janley's whole plan is to eventually crush the rebels themselves, I don't really know why they're giving them the gun arm. Like, that's a pretty powerful weapon, so I guess maybe it's just so the rebels believe that Janley's on their side, but I don't know, it seemed kind of like not the best idea to me.
Yeah, or like maybe if they start film negativizing people with it, they've crossed the line of like, okay, now we can crush them. Or maybe
that
they
could
haven't
be
quite crossed that, negativized line yet.
Yeah, get them, like, kind of push the rebels to making the first move.
Right.
And
right.
then, like, whatever they do in response is justified.
Right. Something, our own government has frequently employed with dissident groups over time.
Uh-huh. Ben finds the doctor. He's just in the guest quarters playing his recorder. It's apparently been a little while since Ben found him, and Ben is concerned that Polly's not there and has not shown up in the guest quarters. The doctor is not too concerned about this, though.
But she is missing. Oh, no. Oh, yes. No. She's looking around. There's a lot to see in the colony. She's interested. I like that.
Okay, Doc. Whatever, buddy. You don't know.
Yeah, I think not caring about when his companions are in danger maybe seems to be a trait he's inheriting from the first Doctor.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
But Ben basically, like, drags him out of the room. He's like, we're gonna go report that Polly is missing, and you're gonna come with me. We cut over to the lab where the Dalek is asking Lesterson about what some of the lab equipment does, basically.
You know, it's amazing. You have an almost human interest and curiosity.
A Dalek is is not the same as a human. If I am to help, I must know everything.
Almost slipped there, buddy.
Uh-huh. The device that it's asking about is a computer to predict meteorite storms approaching the weather satellites, and it has an accuracy of up to 70%. The Dalek is like,
Dude, that fucking sucks. Dalek computers are 100% accurate.
It basically tells him that if he can provide materials and a power unit, it'll just build him a better computer. And idiot Lesterson is like, whoa, cool, I'll go talk to the governor immediately and get all the materials and everything.
Yeah, of course. I mean, pretty tempting offer for anyone, but of course Lesterson just immediately caves.
So yeah, he goes to talk to the governor. As soon as the Dalek is alone in the lab, it rolls over to the generator and turns the power way up and then drives into the space capsule.
Oh, great.
We get a brief scene in the corridor where Ben is basically still trying to hound the doctor into going to see Briggan and report that Polly's missing. But the doctor's not really paying attention to Ben. He's kind of mumbling to himself about the Dalek's power source and other stuff like that. And then the two of them see Lesterson, like walking down the hallway or whatever. And the doctor's like, dude, Ben, Lesterson's out of his laboratory right now. Let's go see it. Ben objects. He's like, no, dude, like, we need to go talk to Briggan about Polly. But the doctor doesn't give a shit. And so they both go to Lesterson's lab. In the lab, they find this thick black power cable stretching from the generator into the space capsule. And the Dalek rolls out of the capsule and asks what they're doing there. And the doctor says that servants shouldn't question. The Dalek basically tells them to leave. And the doctor says that he doesn't have to because of his Accord Every Access badge, which, of course, he stole from the dead examiner.
Right.
He tells Ben to go short-circuit the generator while he heads into the space capsule to see what the Dalek was up to. And, he tells Ben, like, don't worry about the Dalek, attacking you or anything, because this Dalek is unarmed. They can see that, its gun arm has been removed. But these plans very quickly change when 2 more Daleks roll out of the space capsule, and they both still have gun arms.
Uh-oh.
The Doctor suggests to Ben that maybe they should GTFO out of the room.
When I say run, run like a rabbit. Run!
And once they're both gone, the first Dalek tells the other 2 that it has sent the human to get materials and power.
Power we can turn into static. Then we will conquer. We will conquer. We will conquer. We will conquer.
Static. Interesting.
Back in the governor's office, Ben and the Doctor are explaining to Lesterson and Bragan and Hensel about the other 2 Daleks that they saw, and how the first Dalek must have activated the other 2 itself. And Lesterson's basically just like, I was going to activate them anyway. It's fine.
Dumbass.
Uh-huh. Ben points out that these other 2 are still armed, and Lesterson's like, that's fine too. We'll just turn the power off and then disarm them.
Well, what if they have batteries, dude?
Seriously.
Pretty sure they do.
The Doctor, continues objecting to everything, but Governor Hensel says that he trusts Lesterson, and he explicitly gives him carte blanche to do whatever he wants with the Daleks. Hensel is apparently leaving to go tour the perimeter of the colony, and he leaves Bragan in charge, including instructing Bragan to make sure that Lesterson gets whatever he wants. And Lesterson says that he wants a permanent guard on his laboratory. I guess to stop the Doctor from continuing to bust in and try to stop him or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, if the guard's convinced by his badge, that's not going to do any good.
Uh-huh. The Doctor leaves in a huff. Ben follows, and Bragan tells Lesterson not to worry about the Examiner because he thinks he can keep him quiet. Back in the guest quarters, Ben is, of course, still worried about Polly being missing, and the Doctor is playing his recorder. Bragan actually shows up in the guest quarters, and Ben tells him that Polly's missing. So Bragan says he'll have his men start making inquiries. He then tells the Doctor that they've found the body of a middle-aged man in the Mercury swamps, and Bragan accuses the Doctor of not being the real Examiner and stealing the Examiner's badge. He thinks that maybe the Doctor is one of Quinn's friends who's come to stir up the rebellion.
Pretty sharp, really. He's not all wrong.
Yeah, he's definitely right about the Doctor not being the real Examiner.
Yeah.
The Doctor points out that there's only one way that anyone here might know that he's not the real Examiner, which is by knowing what the real Examiner looked like.
Only 2 people knew of his arrival on this planet. Myself and his murderer.
That's enough.
Bragan picks up on the implication that the doctor's laying down, but they're at kind of a stalemate. If Ben and the doctor report their suspicions to the governor's definitely going to believe Bragan over them. But Bragan also doesn't want to report them to the governor because there's a chance that things won't go his way or like the way he wants them to. So they both kind of, know what the other one is up to some extent at least, but they both don't want to talk to the governor about it yet.
Nice.
So Bragan just insists that they leave Lesterson and the Daleks alone, and he leaves the room. And then a few moments later, an envelope gets slipped under their room door. Ben looks in the corridor, but no one's there, of course. But the note in the envelope says,
"The girl is safe. She will remain so as long as you leave the Daleks alone."
Interesting.
Back in Lesterson's lab, there are 2 Dalek gun arms on the work table, and the first Dalek is telling Lesterson about having disarmed the other 2 Daleks because, as servants, they don't need guns. Lesterson's just like,
I'm very glad. I knew the examiner was wrong about you.
and he promises that they'll get everything they need, including a power plant. These other 2 Daleks both come rolling out of the space capsule. Sure enough, they don't have gun arms. And the first Dalek tells them that they'll get their power, and Lesterson gets to observe one of the Daleks' favorite activities, which is group chanting.
They sure do love that.
They all start chanting,
We will get our power. We will get our power. We will get our power.
as Lesterson watches, and the words on the screen say Doctor Who Patrick Troughton.
Well, geez. I'm sure once they get power, they'll be able to start slaughtering. I don't know how, but I can't wait to find out what they're up to. But, man, this is not shaping up well for Lesterson.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, just like, obviously to some extent he is actually ignorant about the danger, but he's also just like willfully ignoring basically everything the doctor says. He's not like, oh, can you explain why they're so dangerous or how you know about them or anything like that. He's just like, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Right, exactly. Like, his ignorance can only go so far to excuse his actions.
Yeah. And, you'd think as a scientist, he might be interested in learning, what somebody else knows about these things or, that kind of thing. But at this point, it seems like he's just like too excited about, I guess, how cool they seem or like, how much labor potential they have in pushing chairs around the mining colony.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of draws a very eerie parallel to, AI companies of our day.
Right, for sure.
They're like, no, nothing bad could happen. Of course, maybe nothing bad will, but they're already like, sucking up as much power as, I don't know, a small company per AI.
Right. Yeah.
We don't know if they're going to be doing worse things. Maybe they won't, but they could.
I saw some commentary online the other day that was like, what $1 trillion problem are companies using AI to try to solve? And the answer is wages. They're trying to not have to pay wages anymore.
Right. Greedy bastards, just like Lesterson. It's like, oh, free labor. Awesome. I don't care the consequences. Just give me the free labor.
That's been like his entire pitch this whole time, is like, think of the labor savings that these Daleks might give us. Right. So Doctor Who, possibly inadvertently, is, kind of a leftist commentary on, labor and capitalism in this series. Yeah, totally. Well, I love it. Can't wait to see what happens next. These sneaky Daleks are definitely up to something nefarious. I haven't figured out what, but I bet it's going to be pretty awesome. I do appreciate that, we've moved from 1 Dalek to 3 Daleks now, because I do love the group chanting, and we had like 2 different group chants in this episode. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I'm being honest, group chanting can be pretty fun. Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Well, any further notes on this episode? Nope, I don't think I have anything on this one. All right. Well, then I would like to thank our listeners for listening to you talk about Doctor Who. And thank you for listening to me talk about Doctor Who. Indeed. And thanks to Circuit 23, referring to themselves in third person, for making the awesome theme for the Doctor's Watcher. Indeed. And speaking of, as a quick aside, speaking of Doctor's Watcher music, our first Doctor retrospective episode was released today, the day that we're recording this, and I also released the Faith of the TARDIS track as its own separate bonus thing, and I wanted to mention that if you are among the 1 to 2% of our listeners who listen on Spotify decided they didn't like Faith of the TARDIS and pulled it. So you can get it in the actual episode, or you can get it from any podcast platform that is not Spotify. Probably it was so awesome it was like zapping their servers, and they just couldn't handle the high traffic or the level of awesomeness that it was putting out. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, if you would like to contact us, feel free to email thedoctorswatcher@gmail.com. I had a nice note from listener Jeff in the inbox today, so thanks to Jeff for sending that along. You can also contact us on Blue Sky. I think it's at drwatcher.bsky.social or something along those lines. Nice. And yes, also don't forget to leave 10 out of 10 stars, 5 out of 5 bags of popcorn. Tell your friends and family and even that weird uncle you don't usually talk to. Get me into it. And please feel free also to leave a glowing review if you should feel so motivated. Indeed. And if you want to hear more about the power of the Daleks, then come back in 2 weeks for episode 4. All right, sounds good. I can't wait. Cool. I will talk to you later then. All right, talk to you then. Bye.
What is this machine?
It computes meteorite storms as they approach our weather satellites.
How accurate is it?
About 70%. It helps to cut down on our satellite losses.
Daleks can build computers with 100% accuracy.
100%?
If you provide materials and our own power unit, a computer will be built.
100%? That would be an enormous saving for the colony.
Then you will get the materials.
I'll go and speak to the governor at once.
I will be ready to dictate the blueprint when you return.
It's marvelous.